What if some movies aren't meant to entertain you, but to show you something you were never supposed to see? There are films that you watch and forget, others that impress you. But every once in a while there's a movie that leaves you with a strange, almost unsettling feeling, like something is off, even if you can't explain why. Eyes Wide Shut is one of those films. At first glance it feels slow, distant, almost cold. The dialogue is controlled, the emotions seem restrained, and the pacing unusual. Many people watch it and think nothing much happens. But that's exactly where the mystery begins. Because this isn't the kind of movie that reveals itself on the surface. It lingers, it stays with you, and the more you think about it, the more questions start to emerge. Why does everything feel so calculated? Why do certain scenes feel so real, and yet so surreal at the same time? Why do the characters behave as if they're part of something bigger, something they can't fully control? This is not just a psychological drama. This is not just a story about relationships, desire, or jealousy. There's something deeper hidden beneath the surface, something that has sparked theories, debates, and even discomfort for decades. And when you start looking closer, you begin to notice patterns, repetition, symbols, colors that seem to carry meaning, doors that open, and others that remain firmly closed, almost like the film itself is guiding you or perhaps warning you without ever saying it directly. What makes it even more intriguing is the mind behind it. Stanley Kubrick was known for his obsessive attention to detail, his perfectionism, and his tendency to embed hidden layers within his work. Nothing in his films is accidental. Every frame, every line, every movement is intentional. So when a movie like this feels cryptic, it's probably because it is. Some believe that Eyes Wide Shut is simply an exploration of human psychology and relationships. Others believe it goes much further, touching on themes that are rarely discussed openly. Power, control, hidden structures that operate behind closed doors. The kind of things most people would rather not think about. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because what if the reason this film feels so strange is not because it's fictional, but because it's familiar in ways we don't consciously recognize? What if the unease you feel while watching it isn't confusion, but recognition? As we move forward, we're going to peel back the layers of this film slowly and look at what's really happening beneath the surface. Not just the story that's being told, but the one that might be hidden in plain sight. And before we go any deeper into this, I want to ask you something. Have you ever watched a movie that made you feel uncomfortable not because of what you saw, but because of what you felt and couldn't explain? If this kind of mystery intrigues you, the hidden messages, the dark symbolism, the feeling that there's always something beneath the surface, then take a second to like this video. It might seem simple, but it actually helps this kind of content reach more people who are looking for something beyond the obvious. And I'm really curious to hear from you. Have you ever felt that something was off in a movie, even if you couldn't put it into words? Comment below and tell me your experience. I read every single one, and your perspective might reveal something others haven't noticed yet. And if you're into exploring the darker side of cinema, the secrets hidden in films, and the theories that make you question reality, consider subscribing to the channel, because what we're about to uncover here is only the beginning. Now, let's go deeper into what Eyes Wide Shut is really showing us. Starting with the surface story that most people think they understand, but rarely questioned, or to understand why Eyes Wide Shut feels the way it does, you have to step into its world the way the film wants you to, slowly, almost unconsciously. You're not thrown into chaos. There's no immediate horror, no obvious threat. Instead, you're placed inside something that looks normal, comfortable even. A wealthy New York apartment, soft lighting, elegant Christmas decorations glowing in almost every room. Everything feels warm, controlled, safe. But if you pay attention, really pay attention, there's something slightly artificial about it, like a stage, like a carefully constructed illusion. And that's your first clue, because this isn't just a setting, it's a controlled environment, a curated reality, the kind of place where appearances matter more than truth, where everything looks perfect on the surface, but nothing is fully revealed underneath. You follow Bill Horford, played by Tom Cruise, moving through this world with a quiet confidence. He's successful, respected, part of a social elite that seems untouchable. If you were in his position, you'd probably feel the same sense of control, the same certainty that you understand how the world works. But then something small happens, something almost insignificant. A conversation. Alice, his wife, played by Nicole Kidman, shares a thought, a confession, not an action, not a betrayal in the physical sense, just an idea. A moment where she admits that she once desired someone else so intensely that she would have risked everything for it. And suddenly, the ground shifts, because what you're witnessing here isn't just jealousy, it's the collapse of an illusion. The illusion of control, the illusion of knowing another person completely, the illusion that relationships are stable, predictable, safe. You can almost feel it happening in real time. The way Bill listens, the way he tries to process it, the way something inside him quietly breaks, not dramatically, not explosively, but subtly, like a crack forming beneath the surface of something that once felt solid. And this is where the film begins to pull you in, because from that moment on, everything changes, not in the world itself, but in how you perceive it. The same streets, the same people, the same environment, suddenly feel different. There's tension where there wasn't before. There's ambiguity in places that once felt clear. It's like you've been given new eyes. And if you were in his place, you'd probably do the same thing he does next. You'd go out not necessarily with a clear goal, not with a plan, but with a need. A need to prove something, to reclaim control, to understand what that confession really means, not just intellectually, but emotionally. So you step into the night and the film changes again. The warmth of the apartment is replaced by something colder. The streets feel emptier, more distant. The lighting becomes harsher, more surreal. And as you move through this version of New York, you start encountering people, strangers mostly, who seem to exist just slightly outside of normal reality. A prostitute who speaks with an almost scripted calm. A group of men who mock and threaten without reason. A late-night pianist who casually introduces the idea of a secret gathering, something exclusive, hidden, inaccessible to most. Each interaction feels disconnected at first, random, like fragments of different stories that don't quite fit together, but they do, because what film is doing here is something very deliberate. It's slowly guiding you and build toward a world that exists parallel to the one you thought you understood, a world that doesn't reveal itself all at once, but in pieces, in hints, in suggestions, and the more you move forward, the more you start to sense it. There are layers to this reality, invisible structures, social boundaries that aren't spoken, but are deeply enforced, doors that open easily for some and remain completely closed for others. And Bill, despite his status, begins to realize something unsettling. He's not as inside this world as he thought. He's close enough to see it, but not close enough to belong to it. And that realization creates a tension that keeps building, step by step, encounter by encounter, because every new interaction feels like it's leading somewhere, even if you don't yet know where that is. There's a pattern forming beneath its surface and you can feel it, like you're being guided toward something hidden, something significant, something that most people never get to see. But the unsettling part is this: the closer you get, the less control you seem to have. And that's where the real shift begins. Because what started as a personal, emotional reaction, a response to a confession, is slowly turning into something much bigger, something that goes beyond relationships, beyond desire, beyond simple human impulses. It's becoming a journey into a structure, a system, a hidden layer of reality that operates by its own rules. And the deeper you go, the more those rules begin to reveal themselves, not clearly, not directly, but through symbols, behavior, and silence. That's when you start to realize this isn't just about what people do, it's about what's allowed, and more importantly, who decides that. If this moment in the story resonates with you, that feeling of stepping into something unknown, something just beneath the surface, comment the word awake below. Because what comes next pushes that feeling even further, into a place where curiosity turns into something much more intense. And once you cross that invisible threshold, the world doesn't look the same anymore. What felt like coincidence begins to feel like design. As Bill continues moving through the night in eyes wide shut, there's a subtle but undeniable shift in the atmosphere. The encounters are no longer just strange, they start to feel interconnected, almost like each person, each moment, is part of a sequence, guiding him somewhere very specific. And if you place yourself there, in his position, you would start to feel it too, that quiet tension building in your chest, that sense that you're being watched, not in an obvious, paranoid way, but in something far more controlled, observed, measured, as if your presence in certain spaces is being noticed, evaluated. This is where the film begins to peel back one of its most important layers, access, because up until this point, Bill has lived in a world where doors open for him. He's wealthy, he's respected, he carries a certain social authority. You see it in the way people talk to him, the way they trust him, the way he moves through spaces without resistance. But now, that changes. There are doors that don't open. There are conversations that stop when he gets too close. There are looks subtle, almost imperceptible, that suggests he's not supposed to be there. And that creates something deeply uncomfortable, because it forces a realization that most people never consciously face. There are levels of reality operating around us that we don't fully see, not because they're invisible, but because we're not invited. Think about that for a moment. Not everything is hidden. Some things are simply inaccessible. And that's exactly what happens when Bill reconnects with Nick Nightingale, the pianist who casually mentioned something earlier, a detail that, at the time, felt like just another strange piece of the night. But now it becomes a key, a password, a doorway. Nick doesn't explain much. He doesn't need to. The way he speaks, the way he avoids certain details, the way he treats the entire situation, it tells you everything you need to know without saying it directly. This is not something casual. This is not something safe, but it is something real. And here's where the film does something incredibly powerful. It doesn't rush. It lets the curiosity grow. It lets the tension stretch. Because deep down, you already know where this is heading, even if you don't fully understand what's waiting on the other side. So when Bill decides to go, it doesn't feel like a sudden choice. It feels inevitable, like something inside him. Curiosity, pride, insecurity. Desire has aligned in a way that makes turning back impossible. And if you were there, in that moment, you might tell yourself the same thing he does. I just want to see, just to observe, just to understand, just to confirm that whatever this is, it's not as serious as it seems. But that's the illusion, because the moment you step into something you're not meant to see, you're no longer just an observer, you become part of it. And everything leading up to this point has been preparing you slowly, almost invisibly, for that transition. Notice how the film has been conditioning your perception. The repetition of Christmas lights, glowing in nearly every scene, creating a surreal, almost dreamlike consistency. The artificiality of certain environments. The way conversations feel slightly detached from reality. It's subtle, but it matters. Because when reality feels slightly off, your mind becomes more open, more willing to accept what comes next. And what comes next is one of the most disturbing sequences in cinema, not because of violence, not because of shock value, but because of what it implies. Power without explanation. Control without visibility. Ritual without context. Before Bill can even enter that world, there's another step, a transformation. He needs a costume. And this detail might seem almost theatrical at first, like a simple requirement for anonymity. But if you think about it, it's much deeper than that. A costume doesn't just hide who you are, it removes you, it strips away identity, status, individuality, everything that defines you in the outside world. And in its place, it gives you something else. Permission. Permission to exist within a different set of rules. Permission to act without consequence. Permission to become interchangeable. So when Bill puts it on, something shifts again. Not just externally, but internally. Because now, he's no longer just a man exploring the unknown, he's entering a space where identity itself becomes irrelevant. And that's what makes what's about to happen so unsettling. Not just what he sees, but what it says about the world he thought he understood. If you can feel that tension building, that sense that something is about to cross a line, comment the word threshold below. Because what comes next isn't just a revelation, it's a descent into something far more controlled, far more deliberate, and far more real than most people are willing to admit. There's a moment just before everything reveals itself, where silence becomes heavier than sound. As Bill arrives at the secluded mansion in eyes wide shut, you can feel it immediately. The atmosphere is no longer ambiguous, it's controlled, deliberate. Every movement, every pause, every detail feels intentional, like stepping into a place where nothing happens by accident. If you were there, standing at the entrance, you wouldn't need anyone to explain it to you. You would feel it in your body, that quiet pressure, that awareness that you've crossed into something structured, something ancient in its behavior, even if modern in its appearance. And then, the ritual begins. Not with chaos, not with noise, but with precision. Figures dressed in identical robes, masks that erase identity completely, a central presence. Authoritative.com, unquestioned. The entire space operates under a silent agreement. No one speaks out of place, no one moves without purpose, no one breaks the pattern. And that's when it hits you. This isn't random, this isn't indulgence, this is hierarchy, because even without words you can see the structure. There are those who lead, and those who follow, those who observe, and those who are observed, those who belong, and those who are merely allowed to be there temporarily. And Bill is the last one. You can feel it in the way he stands, in the way he hesitates just slightly longer than everyone else, in the way his presence doesn't quite merge with the rhythm of the room. He's wearing the same mask, the same costume, but something about him is different. He doesn't understand the rules, and in a place like this, that's dangerous. Because what makes this sequence so unsettling isn't what's shown explicitly, it's what's implied. The idea that this kind of gathering doesn't need explanation, that everyone there already knows their role, their place, their boundaries. You begin to realize something deeper, something that shifts the entire meaning of what you're watching. This isn't hidden because it's secret, it's hidden because it's protected. And there's a difference. Secrets can be discovered, protected systems defend themselves. That's why everything feels so controlled. The lighting, the music, the pacing, it all reinforces the same idea. This is not chaos, this is order, a different kind of order, one that operates outside the rules most people live by. And if you allow yourself to fully absorb it, there's a moment where the discomfort turns into something else. Recognition. Not of the specifics, but of the pattern. Because structures like this don't exist only in extreme cinematic settings. They exist in subtler forms, in everyday systems, in invisible hierarchies that most people navigate without ever fully seeing. And that's what makes this scene so powerful. It doesn't just show you something shocking, it suggests something familiar. But Bill isn't there to analyze, he's there to witness. And the longer he stays, the more that initial curiosity, that desire to just see, begins to transform into something heavier, something closer to fear. Because the deeper he goes into the ritual, the more it becomes clear that this isn't a space designed for outsiders to understand, it's a space designed to function without them. And yet, he keeps moving, he watches, he observes, he tries to blend in. But there's a problem. In a system this precise, this controlled, Anomalies don't go unnoticed, and that's when the shift happens. It's subtle at first. A glance, a pause, a break in the rhythm that only lasts a second, but it's enough to signal that something is wrong, that someone doesn't belong, that the illusion of anonymity has limits. And in that moment, you realize something that changes everything. The mask doesn't protect you here. It identifies you, not by who you are, but by what you don't know, because everyone else understands the rules, everyone else moves in sync. Everyone else belongs. Except him, except you. And the most unsettling part isn't that he's been discovered. It's how calmly the system responds to it. No panic, no chaos, no raised voices. Just control. Absolute, unshaken control. And that's when the true nature of what he stepped into begins to reveal itself, not as a secret gathering, not as a hidden indulgence, but as something far more structured, far more intentional, and far more powerful than he ever imagined. If this moment made you feel that shift, that realization that some systems don't need to reveal themselves to exist, comment the word MASK below, because what happens next doesn't just expose the danger of being inside this world, it reveals the cost of trying to leave it. And the moment you realize you've been seen, everything changes. There's no dramatic interruption, no sudden chaos, just a shift in attention so precise, so controlled, that it feels almost unreal. In eyes wide shut, the ritual doesn't stop, it adapts, like a system recalibrating itself the instant an anomaly is detected. If you were standing there, you wouldn't need anyone to say it out loud. You would feel it, the weight of dozens of masked figures no longer moving in harmony, but subtly orienting toward you. Not with panic, not with aggression, but with awareness. And that's far more unsettling, because it tells you something crucial. This place was never vulnerable to begin with. Bill tries to remain still, to maintain the illusion that he belongs, but there's a difference now. A tension that wasn't there before. The air feels heavier, the silence sharper, and then, without resistance, without struggle, he's escorted, not dragged, not forced. Guided. And that detail matters because it reinforces the idea that control here doesn't rely on visible power. It relies on certainty, on the unspoken understanding that once you've crossed a certain line, you don't get to decide what happens next. He's brought into a central space, surrounded by figures who still wear their masks, their identities intact in anonymity, while his own position becomes increasingly exposed. And then comes the moment that defines everything that this world represents. He's asked to remove his mask, not as a request, as a command, and in that instant, the entire illusion collapses. Because up until now, the mask gave him a sense of safety, a fragile belief that he could observe without consequence, that he could step into this hidden structure and leave untouched. But the truth is the opposite. The mask wasn't protecting him, it was delaying the inevitable. And now that delay is over. You can feel the psychological weight of that moment, the realization that identity, status, profession, everything that gave him confidence in the outside world means nothing here. Absolutely nothing. In this space, power is defined differently. It's not about who you are, it's about whether you belong. And Bill doesn't. What makes this scene so deeply disturbing isn't just the threat, it's the calmness with which it's delivered. The figure at the center, authoritative and composed, doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't need to explain the rules because the rules are already understood by everyone else in the room. And that isolation, that's what creates the real fear. If you were in that position, you would start to realize something terrifying. There is no argument you can make, no explanation you can give, no status you can invoke that would change what's about to happen, because you're not part of the system and the system protects itself. But then, something unexpected happens. A woman steps forward, also masked, also anonymous, and yet, her presence breaks the pattern. She offers herself as a kind of exchange, a sacrifice, in a sense, to protect him. And this moment is layered with meaning. On the surface, it feels like a rescue, an act of compassion in a place that seems devoid of it. But if you look deeper, it raises even more unsettling questions. Why would someone intervene? What does it cost? And more importantly, what does it mean that such an exchange is even possible? Because that implies something fundamental about this world. Everything has a price. Every action, every mistake, every intrusion, and someone always pays. Bill doesn't fully understand what's happening. Not in that moment. He's overwhelmed, disoriented, caught between fear and disbelief. But you, as the viewer, begin to piece it together. This isn't just about being caught, it's about consequences. Structured, controlled, inevitable consequences. He's released, but not freely, not casually. There's a warning, clear and absolute. Do not pursue this any further. Do not question what you've seen. Do not try to understand what exists beyond your reach. And that warning carries a weight that goes far beyond the scene itself, because it implies that what he witnessed was only a fraction, a glimpse, a surface layer of something much deeper, much more complex, and far more protected than he can comprehend. And if you place yourself in his position, walking away from that mansion, back into the cold night, you wouldn't feel relief. You would feel something else, something heavier. because once you've seen that kind of structure, you can't unsee it. Once you've felt that level of control, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. And that's where the real tension begins. Not inside the mansion, but after you leave it. Because the question is no longer what is this? The question becomes, how far does it go? If you felt that moment, that realization that some doors, once opened, never truly closed, comment the word exposed below. Because what comes next isn't about what happened inside that mansion. It's about what follows him after he walks away, and how the outside world starts to feel very different. Once you know what's hiding beneath it, and the most disturbing part isn't what happened inside that mansion. It's what happens after, because as Bill walks back into the night in eyes wide shut, you might expect a sense of escape, relief. The feeling that whatever he just experienced was contained, isolated, something that belongs to that place, and that place alone. But that's not what you feel. What you feel is that it followed him. The streets are the same, the lights are still glowing, the city hasn't changed, and yet everything feels different, colder, more distant, almost as if the world he thought he understood has quietly shifted, revealing a version of itself that was always there, just out of reach. And if you were in his position, you wouldn't be able to shake it either, because once you've seen a system like that, controlled, structured, untouchable, you start to question everything around you. Every interaction, every coincidence, every moment that once felt ordinary now carries a subtle tension beneath it, and that's exactly what begins to happen. Bill retraces his steps, almost instinctively, trying to make sense of what he experienced. But instead of clarity, he finds something else. Disruption. The pianist, Nick Nightingale, the one person who seemed to bridge the gap between the ordinary world and that hidden structure, is suddenly gone. Not just unavailable, removed. The hotel staff doesn't offer clear answers. The tone shifts. The conversation becomes guarded, evasive. It's not overt, it's controlled. And that's what makes it unsettling, because it suggests that whatever Bill stumbled into doesn't just exist in isolation. It has reach, influence, the ability to alter reality beyond the walls of that mansion. And that realization changes the nature of everything. This is no longer curiosity. This is no longer exploration. This is consequence. You begin to see a pattern forming, not through direct threats, but through subtle interference. People become less open, spaces feel less welcoming, information becomes harder to access. That's like the world is quietly closing in on him. Here's where the film does something deeply psychological. It never shows you explicit control that it makes you feel it, because the fear isn't in what you can prove. It's in what you can single quotes to. Bill starts to question whether what he experienced was real in the way he understood it, or if it operates on a level that doesn't follow the same rules. A level where power isn't visible, but deeply embedded, where influence doesn't need to announce itself to be effective. And if you let that idea sink in, even for a moment, it becomes incredibly unsettling, because it means that the world you move through every day might not be as open, as random, or as neutral as it seems. There might be structures, unseen but active, boundaries, unspoken but enforced, and people who understand those rules. Even if you don't, Bill tries to push forward, to get answers, to regain some sense of control over what he's uncovered. But every step he takes feels like it's being anticipated, like the system is always one move ahead, and that creates a shift inside him. The confidence he had at the beginning, the quiet certainty that belonged to a world he understood, begins to erode, replaced by doubt, by the creeping realization that he may have crossed into something that doesn't allow easy exits. And this is where the emotional weight of the story deepens, because now it's not just about what he saw, it's about what it means, about the implications of a reality where access is controlled, where information is limited, where curiosity itself can become a liability. You start to feel the isolation, because who can he tell? Who would believe him? And more importantly, who would be willing to listen, knowing what it might imply? That's the trap, not a physical one, a psychological one. Because once you start questioning the structure, you also start questioning your place within it. And that's a dangerous place to be. The world hasn't visibly changed, but your perception of it has. And sometimes, that's enough to make everything feel unstable. If you've ever had that feeling, that moment where something shifts and you can't go back to seeing things the same way, comment the word shift below, because what comes next pushes that realization even further, into a place where the line between reality and illusion starts to blur in ways that are almost impossible to ignore. And then comes the moment where reality itself begins to feel unreliable, not broken, not chaotic, just slightly distorted enough to make you question what you're seeing, what you're remembering, and what you're choosing to believe. As Bill moves forward in eyes wide shut, something inside him starts to unravel, not in an explosive way, but in something far more subtle and dangerous, a quiet erosion of certainty, the kind that doesn't announce itself but slowly replaces clarity with doubt, because now it's not just the outside world that feels different, it's his perception of it. You start to notice how events begin to overlap in strange ways. Conversations echo earlier moments. Faces seem familiar, even when they shouldn't be. Situations repeat with slight variations, like a pattern trying to reveal itself, but never fully committing to clarity. And if you were in his place, you'd feel it too, that creeping sensation that something is off, but you can't quite isolate where or why. Is it coincidence? Is it intention? Or is it something deeper, something structural? This is where the film stops guiding you with external events and starts pulling you inward, because the real question is no longer what is happening. It becomes what is real. Bill revisits places, retraces interactions, trying to ground himself in something solid. But every attempt seems to lead him further into ambiguity. The more he looks for answers, the less stable those answers become. And that instability creates a very specific kind of tension, not fear of danger, fear of uncertainty. Because danger, at least, has form, it has direction. You can react to it. But uncertainty, it dissolves your ability to respond. And that's exactly what begins to happen. The woman who saved him becomes a central point in his thoughts. Who was she? Why did she intervene? What happened to her after that moment? Questions that feel urgent, but remain unanswered. And then comes the turning point. The newspaper, a simple object, ordinary, grounded in reality, the kind of thing that should bring clarity, confirmation, truth. But instead, it complicates everything. A report of a woman, an overdose, a possible death, circumstances that seem too closely aligned to ignore. Not definitive, not confirmed, but suggestive enough to create a connection. And that's when the weight of the situation truly lands, because now, the abstract becomes personal. The ritual is no longer just a distant, controlled event. It has consequences, real ones, human ones, and you can feel the shift in Bill's state of mind. The guilt, the confusion, the need to understand whether what he experienced has directly impacted someone else's life or death. But here's where it becomes even more unsettling. There's no clear answer, no confirmation, no closure, just implication and implication, where it is powerful, because it forces you to fill in the gaps yourself, to draw connections that may or may not be real, to construct a version of reality based on incomplete information. And once you start doing that, it's very hard to stop. Bill begins to question not just the system he encountered, but his own role within it, his own responsibility, his own choices. Because if he hadn't gone, if he hadn't stayed, if he hadn't looked deeper, would any of this have happened? And that question doesn't just stay with him, it pulls you in as well, because it touches on something deeply human, the need to understand the consequences of our actions, even when those consequences are unclear, indirect, or impossible to fully trace. But the film doesn't give you that comfort. It doesn't resolve the tension. It amplifies it, because the deeper Bill goes into this search for clarity, the more he realizes that clarity may not exist in the way he expects, that some systems don't provide answers, they absorb questions. That realization creates a different kind of fear. Not the fear of what might happen, but the fear that you'll never truly know what already has. If you felt that uncertainty, that unsettling space between knowing and not knowing, comment the word doubt below. Because what comes next isn't about finding answers. It's about confronting what remains when answers are no longer possible. Asterisk, and when answers stop coming, something else takes their place. Not clarity, not resolution, but acceptance. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that settles you, but a quieter, heavier version. The kind that doesn't resolve the tension. It simply teaches you how to live with it. As Bill reaches the final stretch of his journey in Eyes Wide Shut, you can feel that shift happening inside him. The urgency begins to fade. The frantic need to understand, to connect every piece to uncover the full truth, starts to lose its intensity. Not because he found the answers, but because he realizes something far more unsettling. He might never find them. And if you place yourself there, in that exact state, after everything he's seen, everything he's felt, everything that no longer fits into the world as he understood it, you'd probably reach the same conclusion. There are systems you can't fully see. There are forces you can't fully comprehend. And there are boundaries you're not meant to cross. That realization doesn't come with a dramatic moment. It comes quietly, almost imperceptibly, through small details, through subtle confirmations that the world has already moved on, even if you haven't. The warning he received wasn't just a threat, it was a limit, and now he understands it. The people involved don't reappear to explain themselves. There's no confrontation, no exposure, no unraveling of the structure he briefly touched. Instead, what he encounters is something far more controlled: normalcy. The world resumes, the city breathes, life continues. And that, in a way, is the most disturbing outcome of all, because it means that whatever exists beneath the surface doesn't need to hide in panic. It doesn't need to react to curiosity or intrusion in obvious ways. It simply persists. Unshaken, unchanged, untouched. Bill returns home, carrying something intangible. Not proof, not evidence, but awareness. A shift in perception that can't be reversed. And when he finally faces Alice again, there's a different kind of tension between them. Not the tension of jealousy, not the tension of conflict, but something deeper, recognition. Because now, the conversation is no longer about what almost happened, or what could have happened. but about what it all revealed. About the fragility of control, about the illusions we build to feel safe, about the parts of ourselves and the world that we choose not to look at too closely. And in that moment, something becomes clear. The journey Bill went through wasn't just external, it was internal. A confrontation not only with a hidden structure of power and control, but with his own assumptions, his own blind spots, his own belief that he understood the world simply because he could move through it comfortably. That illusion is gone now, and what replaces it is far more complex. Because awareness doesn't come with peace, it comes with weight. The weight of knowing that there are layers to reality that most people never see, and that once you've glimpsed them, even briefly, you can't fully return to the simplicity of before. But here's the question that lingers, the one the film never answers directly. Was any of it meant to be understood? Or was the experience itself the message? Because sometimes, the purpose of crossing a line isn't to discover what's on the other side. It's to understand why the line exists in the first place. And that idea stays with you long after the scenes fade, long after the dialogue ends, because it touches something deeper than the story itself. Something about human nature, about curiosity, about the tension between what we know and what we feel might be hidden just beyond our reach. If this part of the journey resonated with you, that quiet realization that not everything is meant to be uncovered, comment the word awareness below. Because the final piece of this story doesn't bring closure, it brings something far more uncomfortable. Perspective. And what stays with you isn't the ritual, the mansion, or even the mystery itself. It's the realization, the quiet, almost uncomfortable understanding that what you've just witnessed in Eyes Wide Shut might not be about a hidden world at all, but about the one you already live in. Because when everything settles, when the tension softens and the story returns to something that looks like normal life, there's a strange feeling that nothing has truly gone back to the way it was. Bill and Alice sit together again, the same space, the same relationship, the same reality. On the surface, but something has changed. Not externally, internally. And if you pay attention to that final exchange, you begin to understand something that reframes the entire journey. The fears, the jealousy, the curiosity, the descent into something hidden and controlled. None of it exists in isolation. It's all connected. Because what the film slowly reveals isn't just a secret society or a hidden structure of power. It reveals something about human nature itself. The constant tension between desire and control, between illusion and truth, between what we choose to see and what we avoid. And here's where the narrative takes its most subtle and most powerful turn. Everything Bill experienced throughout the night, every layer he uncovered, every moment that felt like a descent into something deeper, can also be seen as a reflection of something much closer, something intimate, something personal. Because the same dynamics exist in relationships, in trust, in the silent agreements we build with the people closest to us. We like to believe we understand each other completely, that what we see is the full picture, that the person beside us exists in a way that is stable, predictable, safe. But the truth is more complex. There are always layers, unspoken thoughts, hidden desires, internal worlds that never fully reveal themselves. And just like the masked figures in that mansion, parts of who we are remain unseen, not necessarily because they're meant to deceive, but because they're difficult to expose, even to ourselves. That's what makes the ending so powerful. It doesn't resolve the mystery, it redirects it, away from the external, and back into the human experience. Because maybe the most unsettling idea isn't that there are hidden systems of power operating beyond our reach. Maybe it's that the same patterns, control, secrecy, desire, illusion, exist in quieter, more intimate ways, in the lives we consider normal. And that realization changes how you interpret everything that came before. The ritual becomes symbolic. The masks become metaphor. The structure becomes reflection, not of a distant, unreachable world, but of dynamics that exist, in some form, much closer than we'd like to admit. And that's why the film lingers. Not because it gives you answers, but because it leaves you with questions that don't fade. Questions about perception, about truth, about how much of reality is shaped not by what is hidden, but by what we choose not to look at too closely. So when you step away from this story, you're not just thinking about what Bill saw. You're thinking about what it means, what it says about the world, and what it quietly suggests about you. If this perspective shifted the way you see the film, or even the way you see reality itself, comment the word illusion below. I'd really like to know how far this interpretation resonates with you, because now the question isn't just about what Eyes Wide Shut reveals, it's about what you're willing to see after watching it. And if you made it all the way here, if you didn't just watch this video, but felt it, that quiet discomfort, that curiosity, that sense that there's always something beneath the surface, then this channel was made for you. Because this is not just about movies, it's about decoding what's hidden inside them. So if you want more content like this, deeper analyses, hidden meanings, unsettling truths behind cinema, take a moment right now and subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss what's coming next, and I want to make this moment count. If something in this video resonated with you, even if you can't fully explain why, comment the phrase "I see beyond" below. not just as a comment, but as a statement, a way of saying that you're starting to look at things differently. Also, don't forget to leave a like. It might seem simple, but it really helps this video reach more people who are searching for this kind of perspective. People who are ready to question what's beneath the surface. And if you're not done exploring yet, there's another video on your screen right now that dives even deeper into hidden meanings and dark theories in cinema. Click on it, because once you start seeing, it's hard to stop.